before we talk about anything else, I hope you had a great birthday yesterday.
Yes.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cheryl.
So sweet.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you. So sweet.
I also want to say it's great to be in the same room as Cheryl and Kelly because we have about 6,000 text messages going all day long, and to actually be in the same physical space is a really special thing. I won't take very much of your time because this is really about Cheryl and her wonderful film. But before I even talk about that, I just want to talk about how special Cheryl is as a person, to her sensibility about seeing the world. Filmmakers make films and do all these kind of things, but it comes from their inner soul about what they think is important. And the issues in the films and the dramatic films that she's made and all of the work she made comes from this very special place. This film that we're going to be able to show very soon is just a sort of different side of that, but very, very powerful. And we are so lucky that, you could have lived in New York or Los Angeles and done all kinds of other things and, been a star on television, but instead you have this path where you make these very powerful, well-made, meaningful films that are very, very important to us. So I'm really, really pleased that we're able to work with you on this.
Thank you.
It means an awful lot to me.
Well, thank you.
But I do want to say one other thing. That when we stopped doing the festival, there was this, so what are you going to do afterwards? And, we didn't know. And then this opportunity comes. And so what's happened is when we're doing the release for this, Kelly says, well, what if we call this curated series? So I said, well, okay, fine by me. And I just want to tell you that in the last week, 2 filmmakers have gotten in touch with me to say, can we do something with this curated film series?
There you go.
So, Cheryl, because of this film, you are helping us navigate the world in which we can do things in different ways. So I really want to thank you because it's really very special. And then just the last thing I want to say, which has nothing to do with your film, but there's a microphone in front of me, so I should use it. Many of you may know I've been producing this TV show, Frame of Mind. I've been producing the show for 25 years. It's been on the air for 30 years. It's a show about and with Texas filmmakers. We've had some very important films on there. It's kind of a big deal. This fall, as our 30th anniversary, we will be not only showing in Dallas, but showing statewide, which is a really big deal. So films will be seen in Austin and San Antonio and Houston and El Paso. And, one of the things we think about as programmers is you want people to watch your films. Well, in a good house like we're going to have, we might have 300 people. Our first episode last year had 45,000 people watching it. Now, that's Dallas. Imagine having something in Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio, El Paso, and Abilene, and all these other towns. How many more people can be affected for watching television? It's a completely different thing. We'll have a lot more paperwork and meetings, but it's just a different sense. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for making this film and letting us be part of this incredible experience. It's going to be amazing. Oh, and there is one other thing, because I promise this will be my last thing. So there's so much about the world that is annoying and aggravating and people yelling at each other, and it's just like, you read the paper and there's no good news. There's no uplifting news. This is a film that connects people instead of having people at each other's throats. It's a film that anybody can watch and say, oh, I feel good to be alive and be human and be part of the world. And it's also a film, it's a rare thing that parents and kids can watch together and feel good about it, and when it's done, they can get in the car and have a great conversation about how good life is and how you should be doing good things in your life. Because what you do is an example of the best parts of what we can be. Thank you. I'll just sit and watch.
So amazing.
So, Cheryl, will you give a little bit of background on this journey of being a filmmaker and then how all of this came about with Honk?
So of how I met Honk?
Yes. But if you'll start back a little further.
A little bit in my career?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, briefly on that. I've been in the business for over 30 years, and I started out on stage. That is my degrees are in music, and when I graduated from college, I moved straight to New York, and that's how I paid the bills, doing Broadway shows, regional theaters, tours, that sort of thing. And then I did act in television as well as film. So, that's what my background has been, on stage and on screen. And about 6 years ago, and I have lived in New York and Los Angeles, both coasts. So about, 25 years after being gone from Texas, I moved back to Dallas to be closer to my family. And in this day and age, it's easy to base here and still work, even in New York or LA. And so that's what I've been doing. And about 6 years ago, I came across a story about someone who I'm actually still filming the documentary, so I don't want to give it away right now. It's been a long process. But I thought, wow, this would make a great documentary, this story about what this person was going through. And I thought somebody should make this film. And then I thought, well, maybe I should make the film. And so I started my own production company called Wow Films. And that's the reason I started it. And I've always been a love of the documentary genre because, you can't get more moving than real life. And I've played a lot of fictional characters, but there's something special when you see a great documentary and it sparks change and conversation and can raise awareness, like Bart was talking about. And I think it's just a really important genre and quite often an overlooked genre. And so that's how that started. And since I started my film company, I have done 6 films and started out by producing and then went into directing. And I've directed narratives now as well as documentaries. I learned to edit and all of this. So I kind of threw myself in, feet first in being a filmmaker and all those different aspects. So that's a little bit about my background. And then Mr. Honk, the goose. I'm sure most of you know from Kelly's press release that she had sent to you, but quickly what happened was in March of 2020 when everything was shutting down and social distancing was happening and things like that, I was taking walks outside in my neighborhood of Turtle Creek in order to get a form of exercise. And one day I walked up the creek to where it opens up into a pretty pond, and I stopped to just look at the pond. And it was really kind of quiet that day too. I remember it was very peaceful. And the peacefulness just was interrupted by the loudest honking I've ever heard in my life. And this goose, which I first thought he was a duck. I'd never seen really a goose. And I thought that's the biggest duck I've ever seen in my life. He came running up to me so fast and it startled me. I was a bit scared at first. And honking. And I just, I kind of talked to him for a minute, and I even shot a quick video because I thought people are not going to believe this. And I spent a little bit of time with him. He was following me around, and then I kind of just said, okay, bye. Have a good life. And I crossed the street to head home, and I hear the honking, and I look, and he's running after me down the middle of Turtle Creek Boulevard, stopping traffic, everything. And so I couldn't leave him, so I took him back to the pond. He followed me back. I got him into the water to start bathing, and I ran and hid behind a bush. I mean, I'm almost 6 feet tall, and I am hiding behind the hedges of Turtle Creek, and I know people thought I was crazy. And he looked around, panicked, but then he couldn't see me, so he swam off. So the next day, I did go back, because I thought this was very bizarre. Through the course of me going back and visiting him, I found out through friends that are waterfowl rescuers from New York and things like that, that he was not a wild goose. I didn't even know what that meant, but I learned quickly that there are domestic geese and there's wild geese. There's domestic ducks, like the Easter ducks, and then there's wild ducks. So basically what that meant was that Honk couldn't fly, and he was more than likely, which we now know, was dumped there for whatever reason. At the time, I didn't know why. And so that's why he was stuck there, and he couldn't leave. And so I knew I probably needed to rescue him, but through the course of my research, I realized that he had a mate, and she was supposedly up the creek on a nest, and I did not want to separate them. So Honk and I spent about 2 months just hanging out together, and we picked up trash along the pond. We spent our days together. We spent Mother's Day together. I couldn't be with my mother, so I was with my child Goose, and and that was our days. And I started videoing and posting videos on social media, and people started to become very involved and very engaged in what was going on with Honk. And then he started to really go viral when Fox 4 here in Dallas, Good Day, the anchor Lauren Prisbel covered the story, and she had us on. And I had started an Instagram page for Honk, and that's when he started getting like a few thousand Instagram followers. And then a big media company called The Dodo out of New York did a video on us. And when they contacted me, I couldn't believe that they had even heard of Honk. And I knew then, when I made the decision to do that, I knew it was going to take it to a different level. And within one day, he went from, I think it was 3,000 followers to over 50,000. And it was all over the world. And and that's when press started just really happening for this goose. Now, of course, being a documentarian, it only took me about 2 weeks when I could tell I had this really special relationship with him that I knew this is a documentary. And I started filming right away. And so I had, that's what made the film then, was that our entire journey. I didn't know how that journey would end. And I was nervous every time I went back to the park, because I thought I could find him hit by a car. I could find him gone. Somebody could have taken him. I found him in danger in the streets before. I found some young men trying to hurt him. I found him with a hook in his wing once. I found him with fishing wire around his legs. So, that was all going on, and I wasn't rescuing him because I hadn't found the mate. But then eventually I did finally hike far enough up into the creek where it was very wooded, and I did find her, and she had passed away on her nest. And that's when I put it all together that Honk probably had lost her very shortly before he met me. And he was grieving. And so I became that lifeline for him. And in turn, he became a lifeline for the world because of what was happening on social media and people caring about his journey. And then I was fortunate enough to have a friend of mine, when she knew I was going to be looking for a rescue, she said, "You have to take him to Rogers Wildlife." And I said, "What is that and where is it?" And she said, "And it's only about 15 minutes south of Dallas." And I thought, oh my goodness, that would be perfect because I could still visit him. And I got Kathy's number and I called her, and I remember that conversation very vividly because I was basically begging, like, "You have to take him." And she was like, Immediately, you said yes. You didn't even ask questions. She was like, yes. And then I remember telling you, now listen, he is rather famous, so you're probably going to be, there's a lot more attention on this goose than just sort of dropping off another, abandoned domestic duck or goose. But Rogers welcomed him with open arms, and he lived his best life there for almost 2 years, and had, knew love from many people, had, feathered friends, and had a girlfriend and a best friend named Beetlegoose, and he, he really had a beautiful life there, and, so that was the film. It was a fairy tale ending, and then, and the film has been made for now like a month, and then 2 weeks ago yesterday, Honk passed away unexpectedly in his sleep, and huge shock for all of us, devastating. But through my grief, I started thinking about the film. And Kelly, I really thank Kelly for this, because Kelly said very delicately and very sweetly, she said, are you going to think about opening the film back up and addressing it? And I was crying, and I said, no, it's done. But then, her words stayed with me, and I thought, I owe it to Honk to have the full journey for him, the full circle of life, and his legacy, and we can talk about that a bit. And then I also realized it's really a beautiful bookend now, because he was grieving when I met him, and I was his lifeline. Then he became the lifeline for the world as the world was hurting. And then here we are at the end of the film, and we're grieving him. But because of what he's taught us, we're able to continue on with this spirit of Honk. And I think one of his last great lessons then was that eventually, through the pain, and the grief though, but love will outweigh that. And so I think that was his great last lesson. And so, that's the, story of Honk. Maybe not so quickly told, but it's hard to tell it quickly. But that was it in a nutshell.
You told it much shorter than the film.
That's right. That's right. The film's 46 minutes. I told it quicker. That's right. So
At least we go longer to see the film.
yeah.
Which is wonderful.
Thank you.
So Cheryl, will you introduce Kathy?
Yes. And so this is the amazing Kathy Rogers, founder of Rogers Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. And I'm going to let you talk about what you do, but I will tell you that she has taught me, not just about Honk, but about so many birds and waterfowl. And, the amount, like 4,000 birds come in a year to the rehab center. And I have to tell you, I stayed in my pajamas for 3 days straight when Honk died. I mean, I was just a mess. They didn't have that luxury. We had a huge snowstorm come up, and they're, getting birds in and getting heat lamps and protecting them, and it never ends for them. And I was just so, I admire them so much for what they do, because they have so many honks out there. They're just not famous. So they really do the real work here.
So when did you start? How did you get started?
Well, I've been rehabbing birds for 40 years. It's turned into it started off very innocently, and now it's quite the show. We do probably close to 6,000 birds a year come through our center.
Wow.
So our goal is to get everybody back in the air. That's the focus, and the ones that aren't able to, that are good candidates to be educational ambassadors or surrogates, we keep them on our permits. But then we have a whole bevy of domestic birds that are brought in, that are ducks and geese dumped at ponds and get into trouble, and that's kind of where the overlap is with. But it's a constant. I mean, after Easter, about 6 weeks after Easter, it's just a nightmare. The Easter ducks and chicks and things that were so cute are not cute anymore, and they get disposed of. that's a whole nother topic that gets all over me. But it's but our goal is to provide the birds that come there with not only medical care if they need it, but a safe and protected home that they can flourish in and live there. And they're put up at night. They have free range of the lake and the property during the day, and then they get put up at night to keep the predators from getting them. So it's a constant effort going on. But we're getting ready to gear up for baby bird season, and we'll get 30 to 60 birds a day in for the next several months. Little things that people find that they bring in. And if it wasn't for them bringing them, we couldn't take care of them. So we count on the goodness of people. We see the best and the worst in this business, and the best always prevails.
Had you heard about Honk before she contacted you?
No, not before he rolled in, no.
Yeah. But now you know.
Yeah, now I know. Yeah, he was quite the character. He spent many days on my porch eating lettuce. He didn't want to associate with other geese. He was above them. So.
He kind of got a little star attitude there at the end. It was kind of like, I want special treatment. Kathy and I talked. I think Honk was so imprinted on humans, and from what I had discovered in some research, raised on a farm, and then a woman in the neighborhood had bought him to come and dump him at the pond to be the mate of the white goose who had lost her mate. And so, that's how Honk got to the pond. But, and this person in the neighborhood, they didn't realize that they were just perpetuating the situation, as opposed to rescuing the white goose. She thought she was doing a good thing, but that's how he was there. So he was more than likely, raised as a pet at that farm. And he was older than we thought. And so when, you could tell, like, he liked his certain geese, and he liked Brenda, his girlfriend, and then, but he was not needy with the other geese, but he was needy with people. And so he would rather follow her staff around, or her around, than, other geese or ducks. So,
Yeah, he had no use for the riffraff.
Yeah. He was kind of like, you know who I am? I'm Honk. But, we had just taken him to Rogers, and maybe it was a month after we had taken him to you guys, and his fans sent a plaque that said, I think it says, Honk's Happy Home. Thank you, Rogers Wildlife, and from Honk's fans. And so they put it up on his little,
his night enclosure.
His sleeping enclosure at night, where he slept with his friend, Beetle Goose or Brenda, whoever was in there for the night. But and so that was there. So it was really, really, really cute.
So Cheryl, talk to us about the filmmaking process, because if this had happened 6 years ago, iPhones or mobile devices didn't have the great filmmaking qualities they have now.
Right.
So talk to us about starting out, how you were saving footage, how you were cataloging it, and then when you said, hey, I'm going to do this documentary, when you decide to bring in the big cameras and then keep it, compact for Honk at the parks.
That's a great question.
Talk to us a little bit about
so, several, probably, I would say maybe 4 weeks had passed before I even brought out what I would consider my, documentary videography camera, which is the higher quality, the good, mic and shotgun mic and all of that. Because I wasn't quite sure where this was all going, this story, right? So it wasn't like I said from day one, this is going to be a documentary. But what I did do from day one is start putting this footage of him on Facebook. Because the banter that he and I had together and the rapport was so, I knew it was special to me, so I thought, well, maybe it will give some other people joy, because I knew everybody was so scared, and it was such an unprecedented time, and so I thought, my friends and family might enjoy this. So that's how that all started. And so that was all on my iPhone. And then when the ball started rolling and he started getting more popular, and I started thinking, this is a great story that I could maybe document and raise awareness about dump ducks. Then I had my spouse, actually, because I couldn't hire a cinematographer. We weren't being around each other at the time. And so and thank goodness, she's she's retired now, but was in the television industry for years. So she knew her way around a camera a little bit. So I was just like, this is what you do. Do this. And so she started filming at the pond, and that was a great way to start getting the better footage. But early on, because Honk, when he and I would just be together and he did something amazing, boom, I just did that selfie video. So I knew from the beginning with this documentary that it was going to be that kind of documentary with a lot of iPhone footage, a lot of selfie videos.
So raw and gritty.
Yeah, that raw and gritty. So it really ended up giving it a cool feel, I think, to the documentary, because you have more of the cinematic moments, and of course with the music and everything. But then what happens is the audience member can, in my opinion, I wanted them to go on the journey with us from the beginning. So I saved that very first video that I ever shot of him when I first met him. And I said, who's this guy? I was like, you're not social distancing. It's all on Honk. And I decided to include that in the movie, because they go on that journey with me that I was documenting on social media, on Facebook and Instagram and that sort of thing. And so I thought that was important. So yeah, this is the first documentary I have done where I have used that kind of footage, that selfie footage and that kind of thing. And it works for this. It really works for this, and it really gives it that reality feel. Yeah.
A lot of times when you're making a film, you sort of, I guess, you've probably been here, but you're hoping that maybe it connects with people, or maybe hopefully this will find an audience or whatever. In this case, your market research has already been done, so it's going to be popular because he's so popular, and it would almost have been silly not to make the movie, I guess, because so many people are demanding it, right?
Exactly, and you're exactly right. That's what I was thinking. I thought so many people love him that it's a great opportunity for them to know Honk's story. Hopefully, it gives them enjoyment, but also as an educational tool for families and for children out there. For the parents who are buying the Easter ducks or what they're feeding them. Cheetos or whatever it is at the pond. That sort of thing. But, and what was interesting is it's sort of like the city of Dallas, and that's what I think is so beautiful about this film. It is a Dallas film because, first of all, Fox 4 that said, hey, we love this story. Let's bring it to at least our, viewership here in North Texas. But then I was asked by the bathhouse of, it's the Cultural Center at White Rock Lake. Their nonprofit that runs the bathhouse is called Friends of the Bathhouse Cultural Center. And they asked Honk and I to Zoom with their children's program that they have there. And of course, everything was having to Zoom at the time. Honk was still at the park. And I did. And they usually get a few thousand views, and Honk's went crazy. So they had like over 20,000 views of this Zoom, and they were like, oh my goodness. And then I got a call, and they said, we heard you were thinking about making a documentary. And I said, well, I am, but I just don't know if there'll be enough there. And they said, well, we would like to give you a grant. So the bathhouse gave me a grant to make the documentary, and then they also granted money to have 2 children's books published. So that was just another, sort of the universe saying that this is a very special story at a perfect time. That, it was just the perfect storm because people needed that. And so that's when I realized, yeah, I definitely have to make this documentary, and I have to, you know, finish it. And it is the first film I've ever done where I'm not begging people to, you know, get me in the festival or please give it a shot. You know, I've been contacted, and that is a new feeling. But I did make one decision, and there were people that wanted the world premiere. And I talked to Kelly. Kelly and I were at lunch one day, and Kelly said, you know, maybe there's something we could do with Bart. And I jumped on board because you said, you know, some kind things earlier, and I appreciate that so much. But I have to tell you, you know, I have a long history with Bart, always supporting my films and airing at Dallas Video Fest. And I have a great relationship with many of the festivals here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but I wanted the world premiere to go, if Bart wanted it and wanted to start this film, you know, the curated film series, I wanted to do that, partner it with Bart, because he's the best of the best. I have nothing but respect for him, and of course working with Kelly, and so I was like, okay, then we're going to do that. So that was a perfect thing, and that was a choice to absolutely have it through Dallas Video Fest. But yeah, I've never had it where we're worried that we're sold out. Usually it's like, where are the ticket sales? Okay, we've sold 70 tickets, but the theater seats 300. Okay, but now it was like, oh my gosh, you know, we're gonna maybe.
You had to move to a bigger theater.
We did. We had to move to a bigger theater. So we moved to the biggest theater.
Yes.
Yeah, we're at the big house. We're moved to the biggest theater at the Angelica, and it's still, you know, going to be packed. I think, you know, maybe the first row might not be.
The story's in the White Rock Lake Weekly Friday. And it's got all the ticket information as well.
Yeah.
There we go. That's good. Especially with White Rock. Are you kidding me? Yes.
So Kathy, if we know, what kind of goose was Honk, and
He was a pilgrim goose.
are they native to Texas?
I call him a Toulouse goose in the film, just so you know, because they look alike.
They do. Lots of things look alike. They're not wild, obviously, and they're raised for mostly food and various things.
How old was he when he passed away?
He was probably over 15.
Oh, wow.
He was an elderly guy.
But when you first met him,
He was older.
Yeah, he has, yeah.
And I didn't know, you know, I thought he was pretty young, you know, because he was so cute, and you just can't
And the energy.
tell, and the energy exactly. But if you think about it, he probably was raised on that farm for a good, you know, 8-9 years, and then he was at the pond at Turtle Creek for at least 3 years, because I talked to people who had, you know, seen him and taken pictures of him and the white goose for that long. And see, they probably kept each other safe too, because they were together. So they, you know, he wasn't, you know, trying to connect with people while he was out there because he had her. But then the minute, and they, you know, they protected each other. But the minute she passed, you know, he was traumatized, and that's, you know, going in the street and doing all of that because he shouldn't be there by himself.
where do you think he picked a woman?
He was probably raised by a blonde woman.
Yeah. And you know, I think too, I think I stopped and I listened to him. Because I will tell you this, I would go, I have footage of Honk at the pond that's in the film that, you know, he didn't know I was there. Because the minute he knew I was there, he's up in my face, right? And I was like, I have enough of that footage. So I would drive sometimes, and I'd stay in my car and I'd look, and he'd be across the pond, and, you know, and sometimes, you know, he could hear my car. He was so smart. But I was just really quiet. I took my camera and I was videoing. And one time I saw a gentleman with a yellow lab walking. And Honk just got up and started following that yellow lab. Oh. And the guy kind of looked and sort of like, oh, kind of laughed. And come on, dog, you know. And they started going. And Honk followed him for a little while. And then they went on and he stopped. And I just saw him look, kind of just sort of helpless, didn't know what to do. And then he just walked back and he sat underneath the tree. So he, you know, I think he was looking for that companionship and help. And I think a lot of people thought he was cute. He might follow him for a little bit and they go on. But I stopped because I knew something was going on. And I think that's another lesson in this film, is for people to listen to animals and listen to nature, because we talk to animals a lot, but and Rusty says this, but they talk to us if we only listen.
So Kathy, tell us about the gentleman in the documentary that rounds up the birds at night. That is like so awesome.
That's every night. He is one of those rare people that has a real connection with animals, and we have hundreds and hundreds out there all the time that live on the property, and he knows everyone, and if somebody's missing, he immediately comes flying in the clinic and goes, do you have it in here? Did something happen? So cute. He knows everybody, and they respond to him. That's the thing about birds, well, animals in general, but they do know different people, and they respond to kindness and evil ways and all of that.
So we don't look the same to them.
Oh, no.
No, yeah.
No, they know different people, for sure enough. And so we round all of them up every evening, have to get them off the lake, and I mean, it's a process. So he has them trained now where he just goes out and hollers and, okay, boys.
Let's go home. Let's go. Let's go home.
Go to the house.
Go to the house.
And they kind of fall in line, and they come from wherever they are and get in this group, and they take their time, and it's this parade every night, and then they'll have somebody that breaks off. You always have to renegade that has to peel off.
Yeah.
But so he has a long stick, and he just kind of gets everybody back in line. So
I thought that was just an amazing part of the documentary, just seeing that happen and knowing that it happens every time.
yeah. Oh, every night.
How long has he been there?
4 years. He started off as a volunteer, and then he was so good that we hired him.
That's awesome.
It's very rare that you find somebody that has the passion like that, and face it, you either love it or you hate it. I mean, there's no really in between. So my staff most of them have been with me for over 15 years, and everybody has a very unique passion for what they do. I couldn't do it without them, for sure.
Right.
Anytime we see TV shows or movies, we always see the old guy or the kid throwing bread and feeding, geese and goose and stuff. What is their actual diet? Because I know the bread will fill them up and it's not nutritious and stuff. So what do they actually eat? What are they supposed to eat?
Grains or bugs if they're, obviously at the water's edge, they'll eat little crustaceans, things like that. But grain or vegetation is their main diet.
Honk was huge about lettuce. Oh yeah,
They were insane about lettuce.
One of her staff, her name is Karen. She would go and get, you said like 5, 6, 7 heads of lettuce a week, and Honk was just like, eating that green leaf lettuce. Green leaf lettuce. So and you do. I take lettuce there, and the turkeys come up and want the lettuce, and the ducks come up, and the geese, and
anything green.
Yeah, anything green like that. Yeah. So
Cheryl, you have a career as an actress and a career as a director of narrative work and documentary work. What is it like to sit in the editing room and edit you and your scenes? Because that has to be, it's difficult because you want the film to be good. And, maybe I don't look as good today as I looked yesterday.
You know what? You have to put the ego out of it completely. But
that's not possible.
Well, it's funny though. I found that if I watch myself in a narrative, like some of the films that I starred in are on Amazon Prime. And if it comes up, or one day we were flipping the cable and it was on Lifetime, and my mom was like, "You're on Lifetime," and I was like, "Oh," and then I was like, "Oh my God, I look so weird. I sound so stupid. What's wrong with me? How did they hire me?" That's what you're thinking. But for this film, I don't know. I think it was so much about Honk's story that I really didn't get caught up in, I have a strand of hair right here or something like that. I did notice that I say a lot. And I was like, in my interview, I was like, if I say one more time. So I looked, I was like, where's cutaway footage where I can edit that audio to get the word out? So I do say but I think that, now I'm going to say it all the time, that was the hardest thing. I will tell you, when I went back in to edit Honk's passing into the film, I used a portion of the video that I posted on Instagram and Facebook to announce his death. Because number one, it was a selfie video, and I thought, okay, well, it's still that ongoing theme of how, here we are live on Facebook, here we are live on Instagram, and so here the audience is still traveling with us, even though it's 2 years later, they're traveling with us, they're seeing this, how it goes. So when I looked at that, I filmed that on Wednesday morning. Kathy had called me at 7:30 Tuesday night, and I looked a mess. Swollen eyes and no makeup. And I thought about it before I filmed it, and I thought, no, the actress of me wanted to go put makeup on and look halfway decent, but then I thought, I can't do that to announce this, because then it's not real and it's not organic. So I did. So I look ugly in that announcement of Honk's passing, but that's okay. So, I did, take the filmmaker.
What that means is that you crossed over from narrative to documentary.
Yes.
So that was the more important moment.
Right.
That was the more important moment, because, and it really was about telling this story. I joked, I told Kathy, I think I told you this, I said, I never in my wildest dreams would have thought a goose would break my heart. But he just broke it into a million pieces. I just, I loved him, and still do, as much as any little fur baby I've ever had that has lived in my home. And I think, just this connection we had, and and the whole story, it was just a beautiful, magical time. So I'm so excited to bring the film to people, because his story lives on, and I think it can raise awareness and education, but I think that they will be moved, like you said, from it. And just hearing the Instagram comments before he died, which I did include some in the film, but now after, it's been overwhelming, the amount of direct messages I've received. One day it was over 12,000 in one day.
Wow.
Direct messages.
And not just from America.
Oh no, Norway, Ireland, Scotland, Portugal, Australia, Pakistan, everywhere. And I try to answer a lot of them, but I knew that they would be upset. But when I got a direct message from a woman in Norway that lives in a small village, and she told me that everybody in the small village pretty much knew about Honk, and when they found out he died, they gathered that evening and lit candles in the town square. That's when I knew that this was much, much bigger than a rescue story. Yeah.
So, in what ways are you going to keep his spirit going?
Well, through the film, and one thing that's great about that, and one thing his fans are upset about, is that they can't see the film right now. They are just every day, why can't we see it? When can we see it? So I have entered festivals through the end of this year. I'm not going past it, because we want to get it distributed. And the great news is, the day after Honk died, a woman who I am friends with, and she had distributed one of the films I had starred in. I don't own it, nothing like that, but I know her because of that. She contacted me and said, I want to see the film. And I sent it to her, and she's passed on all my films. Basically patted me on the head and said, well, good for you, and then let me go on. And I said, okay, here you go. 2 hours later, she called me from LA and had me on the phone for 2 hours. And so they're going to distribute the film. So it has distribution. She thinks we can get it on airline. She thinks it could be on the streaming platform. She thinks it can be on broadcast. That's why she wanted the film over 40. She needed it over 44 minutes because it was originally 41. So she said, please tell me you're going to address his passing. And I said, yes, my publicist says I need to. So we have distribution, and before that, and we're hoping to work with Bart, with PBS, and have it throughout Texas, which will be great, and that will help tell the story. We have the children's books that are still, they're so great. We're getting them at schools. There's teachers that are buying them, and they're using them in their curriculum, especially the storybook that's reusable. So they're going to, a lot of them are in schools already, and libraries, so things like that. And there is a film festival that has now, it's actually in the Republic of Cyprus, and they voted Honk as an animal hero. He got the Animal Heroes Award for being a therapy goose for the world, and they're naming an award at the festival after Honk.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to be given in the future to any films that address rescues and helping, that type of situation, saving an animal or rescuing an animal, and it's going to be called the Honk Award. So that's just a few of the ways we're going to keep his spirit going. And I'm keeping his Instagram going, and we're going to highlight other birds and waterfowl at Rogers. And because it benefits Rogers as well. His fans love to support Rogers, and I think they gave a lot of donations for after he passed. I know.
We got a lot of things off of our wish list that in his memory. It's very, very nice.
I got a question. So at the beginning of this interview and in other interviews you've done, like the Dallas Morning News, you've talked about how Honk helped people throughout the tough times of COVID and what they were going through during the pandemic. If you don't mind me asking, Natalie, your wife, was battling cancer. Mm-hmm. So what did Honk do for you that Honk also did for others?
Oh, well, yeah. Even before my wife was diagnosed with cancer, I would go sit with Honk at the park, just he and I, because I couldn't get together with my best friend for coffee or my parents or whatever. And so I would just go sit with him and have my morning coffee and just talk to him and just this companionship. So it's very interesting how fate works. When we finally rescued Honk, which was about the middle of June, I think, and got him to Rogers. It was about 2 weeks after that, Natalie got diagnosed with breast cancer. And it just floored us. And so, just seeing Honk and talking to him and going to him there, helped me. But it was also very difficult because the minute she was diagnosed, then we had to incredibly isolate, because should she get COVID, any type of surgery or treatment would have to stop. So I stopped going to Rogers for a couple of months because I couldn't be around anyone, and it crushed me. But Kathy was so wonderful. You would take all these great pictures of Honk, and here's Honk, in some kind of like a costume or something, and then, there's Honk. And so she would send me these adorable pictures, and it served two purposes. It gave me comfort, but then also I would post it on his Instagram, because if I didn't post a picture of Honk or a video of Honk every week, then people were like, what's wrong with Honk? Why did you post from Honk? We haven't had it. So poor Kathy, it kind of fell on you to keep giving me that stuff.
Well, he was such a good subject that it wasn't too hard to get a really good.
Yeah. You have to chase him down.
Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly.
He was, you just had to give him about, 60 seconds and he'd do something cute. Yeah.
And you know what? During that time when I couldn't see him, and I just really appreciate you for sending me those pictures during the time. It helped me so much. And I thought, what I did think though? I thought, okay, he's just gone to this new place. I only got to see him a couple of weeks, while he was there. And now, about 6-7 weeks are passing. And I remember thinking, he's not going to remember me. But then I thought, that's okay though, he needs to, you love something, set it free. And I was like, that's just selfish of me to want him pining for me. And I went back and all I did was go, Honk! Just went crazy, like, where have you been? And so that was incredible, yeah.
Kathy, you dealt with Honk's death. How does someone, your staff, your volunteers who care for these birds and animals every day, how do you process grief? How do you handle grief? What do you tell your volunteers and your staff on how to handle the grief? Because you guys are intimately involved in these animals, with the rescuing them or giving them medical treatment. And so how do you handle that?
It's very difficult, and everyone is, we see it every day, and it's still impossibly difficult. Because you're so invested in these critters. And then when they don't make it for whatever reason, it's just devastating, because they're brought to us for care, and then when they die, it's, I guess to answer your question, the processing is, we do it so often that I won't say that it's routine, because it's as hard now as it was 40 years ago when one dies. But for everyone that passes away, another one's coming in the door.
You have to keep going.
The needs us just as much. So
That's the incredible work that they do.
You just have to push through and keep going. And it's hard, I won't lie.
And I remember you told me, in fact, we have this on film where, and this is not true of all different types of rescues or sanctuaries, sometimes they're very limited, or they say, you know what, we have a certain amount of geese, and we have a certain amount of female to male ratio, and we're not going to mess that up, and so we're not going to take any more geese for a while. Yeah, that's very common among sanctuaries and rescues. And Kathy, in her interview, and it's in the film actually, said, you said, I don't know if this is necessarily a good thing, but I've never turned a bird away. And that's what's so amazing about Rogers. Like you said, there's always room for one more. We just make it happen. And that's so incredible. And that's, and I'm so thankful for that, because, you could have said, I've got a lot of geese now, I might want to try to find them in a different home. But you said,
that's where I count on Rusty to run roughshod out there and keep the fighting to a minimum. There is a talent there, I have to tell you. And now with mating season coming on, it's
oh
boy, oh my God, the fighting is.
Oh boy, I bet.
Cheryl, the children, the books you had mentioned, they're finished and already out there. Is that
yes? They're distributed through that we self-publish through BookBaby.com. And so BookBaby has it's called the Bookshop. You go on and you just put in Honk or my name, and the books come up. And so a lot of people.
One's a children's book and the other's a coloring book.
Yeah. So there's a beautiful hardcover storybook with gorgeous watercolor illustrations by a wonderful artist here in Dallas. And it's the story of Honk and I, and it's just, the kind you read to your child, or they can start to read for themselves. Reusable, we say pass it on through generations. And then we have the activity book. And the activity book is the same story, but it's black and white illustrations so the children can color it, different illustrations. And then at the back, after they've read the story of Honk and Cheryl, then we have multiple choice questions. We have crossword puzzles, word find, all of that, where it says, what should you, the following is what you should feed ducks at the pond or whatever, and don't do this, and, why is it bad to purchase Easter ducks? And you have the different answers, and so it's more of an educational tool.
And you wrote those yourself as opposed to
I actually I co-wrote the book with Marty Van Cleek, who is a very well-known actress here in Dallas, and she was involved with the Dallas Bathhouse, who gave the grant for that. And so it was their idea. They said, we should make a children's book. And I was in the middle of the documentary, and I said, oh my goodness, I don't even have the bandwidth to think about that. And she said, I tell you what, why don't we write it together? I'll put together kind of what I think is your story, and then you look at it and tell me what I got right and what I got wrong. And so it was really perfect. And then we found, a beautiful illustrator for the storybook, and then a different illustrator for the coloring book. So.
And we'll have some at the screening.
Yes, the back house wanted to sell some at the screening. So I think they're going to have a little table set up, and I think I'm supposed to go by next week and we're going to sign them. Marty and I are going to sign them so they'll be autographed. And yeah, and that's a great thing to have. And I've taken the activity books to a lot of schools and give them out, and people just love it. The kids love it.
Well, we kind of need to wrap up. Is there anything extra that is there anything we haven't touched on that you would like to
Website,
touch on?
Instagram handle?
Yeah, the website for Honk's film is honkthefilm.com, and his Instagram is honk_the goose, and that's the main one. So, and then he has a Facebook page, which is the Honk the Film.
Kathy's website, so we can support her.
Rogers Wildlife
.org.
Rehab Center.
The website.
The website is rogerswildlife.org. Yes.
And then on Instagram, I think it's at Rogers Wildlife, and
we have a Facebook.
Facebook
page.
is Rogers Wildlife Rehabilitation Center.
You can type in enough on Google and you'll get there. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh, did you? Good for you.
Yeah.
So, and the film is showing?
The film is showing 2 weeks from tonight, 7:30 p.m., March 2nd, at the Angelica Film Center here on Mockingbird. And it will, 7:30 is the screening time. Red carpet starts at 6:30. We're selling good, and we're promoting it as a family film. I know there's going to be a lot of kids there. I have friends that are bringing their children. It's the runtime is 46 minutes and 25 seconds.
Very precise.
So it's now perfect for distribution. Maybe Honk knew that. Maybe Honk was like, it's a little short. I'm going to help you out. Yeah. So.
Do you want to tell where else in the area it's going to be playing soon?
Yes, I think it's not being announced until February 18th
Okay, never mind.
for the press announcement. So I could announce it now, but then I might get in trouble, right? February 18th, there will be a press announcement for another festival in the area, and we will be screening there the weekend of March 26th and 27th. Not sure which day. There might even be 2 screenings in person. So that's exciting. And then we have 3 other festivals that we can't even announce yet. So it's exciting, and I'm sure there will be more to come. But we're very excited about the world premiere. Nowhere else we could have it except Dallas here. This is a Dallas film all the way around.
Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.